let's talk about the WHO, shall we? Let's talk about the World Health Organization, who has been for years now aligning themselves in many ways with China and saying, looking the other way. They did that bogus investigation where they looked at, what happened. Where did COVID come from? We don't know. We can't really, we think it's animals, but it might be humans. And at the end of the day, we just don't know. So we're just going to whitewash this thing and sweep it under the rug.
Well, we did get an official report, which is all origins are possible.
Yeah.
That's
so it might
really
have
what
come
we
from
got.
it might have come from Mars as well. It might have. I mean, it might have just that's might be where it came from. It came from Mars, not even from the Wuhan lab. Well, now we got a bombshell story out of the World Health Organization today, which has for years, of course, been saying that it doesn't believe that SARS-CoV-2 leaked out of the Wuhan, China lab. Well, now, according to the Daily Mail, the Director General of the WHO, here is the guy. His name is Tedros Adhanom, has been telling people privately that yes, COVID leaked from the Wuhan lab.
Well, it's not that private now that we know about it. I mean, this has to be very intentional, right?
Yeah.
Because we're getting, I mean, just last fall, I'm going to call them WHO because some people do, WHO said that they were dissatisfied with the level of access that they had to Chinese labs. The Chinese had opened up some data, but not all, didn't let them do their own investigation. They said, we really don't like this. We don't think we're going to get that close. But they kept doing this research. And then the official report, which was published just in the last 2 weeks, is we don't know. Could have been from everywhere.
So let's go through
well,
this.
And I wonder if the YouTube, if the YouTube is going to update the information underneath all the videos, and then the people that got strikes and all that, if they're going to go back and retroactively remove those for the people that talked about that and were called conspiracy theorists just a short time ago.
Well, YouTube did punish people who went, and the official policy is that you have to
be very careful.
Yes, you have to say what WHO says. You cannot go against those things. So we're going to only tell you what is being reported out of WHO.
And specifically in YouTube's policies, it's about, of course, the thing that you get that comes in in a little vial that has a needle sticking out of it.
We're not going to talk about that.
Yeah.
We're only talking about COVID origins.
That's what the
today.
WHO, that's where YouTube's guidelines specifically fall, is on that little thing that's in a vial and it has a needle, and then you get that. And many people have gotten 10 of them.
Okay.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
So we're not going to talk about that. But we will talk about the origins of it, which is open season, I guess, apparently. Anyway, the Daily Mail, here's the Daily Mail piece. WHO chief believes COVID did leak from Wuhan lab after a catastrophic accident in 2019, despite publicly maintaining all hypotheses remain on the table. So the Director General confided to senior European officials that this is in fact the case, even though they continue to publicly say that all hypotheses are on the table, and yet the evidence that they've been looking at internally apparently is different than what they're telling us publicly. For instance, this is amazing. If you've seen some of the photos from inside the Wuhan lab, take a look at these. These are the seals around the freezers where they're storing these particular the COVID-2, right? And so I've seen better seals on my refrigerator. Shock photos inside Wuhan lab, which stores 1,500 virus strains. Take a closer look at this, right?
Yeah, you're not supposed to have that kind of ice on your freezer.
Yeah, you're not supposed to have freezer burn, right?
Because that means that you don't have a good seal. The freezer, right? That's bad. If your freezer looks like that right now,
and
take another look at it.
The rubber around the sides just hanging off there, and of course,
I wouldn't eat that ice cream.
Well, he talks about it'd be covered in the hairy freezer fuzz.
The ice cream icicles.
Yeah, which is nasty, and that's because, and the reason you get that is because you have a bad seal, right? They're breaking the seal. So the same caves where COVID-19, the Mail on Sunday first revealed concerns within Western intelligence services about the Wuhan Institute of Virology, where scientists were manipulating these coronavirus samples from bats in caves that were 1,000 miles away. So the idea then that one of these bats was flying around Wuhan and just went down to the wet market and bit somebody, that's what people have been saying. It definitely came from a bat that had, and it was flopping around down there at the wet market where there were people buying fish and stuff, and some, oh my God, here comes a COVID bat. And
You do know that bats are nocturnal.
I get it. Even more ridiculous then, right?
Right.
So I'm the last person at the wet market. They've turned all the lights out. It's nighttime, and what was that?
And also, bats fly with echolocation, so they don't
Is that a
usually
COVID bat?
hit things.
Fucking ridiculous. I mean, this is the idea of this whole thing is ridiculous, right? So I'm getting stuck with a COVID bat at the Wuhan wet market. 1,000 miles away is where these bats were, that they were doing the research on in the lab. And then, of course, all of the data about the military games that were unfolding, and that we covered this here on the story before, and the Canadian military who were there and saw weird things happening, lockdowns, people being cordoned off, and then all these people started getting COVID and they were getting sick. Like, what the hell's happening here? So,
well, and isn't this the first time in history they've not found the origin? You know what I mean? Like all the other ones, like they get back to the origin of where it came from, but this is the first time in history they've not done that.
even in the what's the movie, the Gwyneth Paltrow movie?
Yes.
What was that movie?
It was called Contagion.
Contagion. They found it.
Contagion, yes.
They figured it out, right? They figured out.
They also wrote it, but
They wrote it, yeah. But in that, it's a movie,
It was
which
fiction.
is maybe even less believable than what what actually happened is kind of crazy. So anyway, gain of function research. Let's talk about what is gain of function research, right? That is the genetic manipulation of viruses, which is what was happening at this lab. Well, you remember Senator Rand Paul showed us all that Dr. Fauci knew about and what was happening there. And also he called him out on the fact that Dr. Fauci was part of funding the COVID.
He was the director of an organization that did authorize gain of function. This is provable.
Yeah. So here
The
is
NIH.
Yeah, the NIH, the National Institutes of Health. So here's Senator Rand Paul on this question about the Wuhan lab. Listen.
Dr. Fauci, do you still support funding of the NIH funding of the lab in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain of function research in the Wuhan Institute
Do they
of
fund
Virology.
Dr. Barrick?
We do not fund.
Do you fund Dr. Barrick's gain of function research?
Dr. Barrett does not doing gain of function research, and if it is, it's according to the guidelines, and it is being conducted in North Carolina. Not
You don't think
in
inserting
China.
a bat virus spike protein that he got from the Wuhan Institute into the SARS virus is gain of function?
That is
You would be
not-
in the minority because at least 200 scientists have signed a statement from the Cambridge Working Group saying that it is gain of function.
Well, it is not. And if you look at the grant and you look at the progress reports, it is not gain of function, despite the fact that people tweet that.
So
they
do
write
you still
about it.
support sending money to the Wuhan Virology Institute?
We do not send money now to the Wuhan
Do you
Virology
support
Institute.
sending money? We did under your tutelage. We were sending it through EcoHealth. It was a sub-agency and a sub-grant. Do you support that the money from NIH that was going to the Wuhan Institute?
Let me explain to you why that was done. The SARS-CoV-1 originated in bats in China. It would have been irresponsible of us if we did not investigate the bat viruses and the serology to see who might have been
Or
infected.
perhaps it would be
in China.
irresponsible to send it to the Chinese government that we may not be able to trust with this knowledge and with this incredibly dangerous viruses. Government scientists like yourself who favor gain of function research.
I don't favor gain of
maintain
function
that
research
the
in China.
disease
You are
arose
saying
naturally.
things that are not correct.
So that goes on and on, the back and forth, of course. But
Okay, I would just like to refer you to a video we did just about a week and a half ago about how the Wuhan Virology Lab is currently manufacturing their own monkeypox in a pot because they say that they need to research a treatment for it, and they cannot otherwise have access to samples because there is no monkeypox in China, right? So in videos that we showed you recently, Wuhan Lab admitted to stirring up their own synthetic pot, right? So
Monkeypox. They're
I
making,
just want to like
they're making their own.
reiterate this point that this is a lab that we all collectively may or may not trust that does right now, maybe in this freezer. Can we show the image again? There may be now not any more COVID leaking out of there, but in that same freezer, there may be some monkeypox.
And some pot pies.
People are like-
that's where they also store their their Mrs. T's pot pies in that same freezer.
I was gonna say, like, you got scientists walking in the lab, and they're like walking in the door, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, what are you guys making? This smells really good. Oh, we're stirring up some monkeypox this week. Oh
Yeah.
wow, I'm glad that COVID stunk. I hated the smell of that. But this monkeypox
We're
smells
on
pretty
to
good.
something new.
Wait, you can smell that? Oh, it's our freezer. It's acting up again. Our monkeypox
Wait, if you can
freezer.
smell it, it means it's loose.
Yeah.
Run.
Growing up, I know my mom's probably watching. She's going to be upset at me, but we had a freezer in the basement because my dad worked in the meat business, and so he would come home with like steaks all the time, and so we had like a freezer full of steaks in case like there was a world war. Like
Yes.
we would have steaks for like 4 years or something, or whatever cut of meat. But in that freezer, my mom would buy like the Elio's pizza. Remember Elio's pizza? You put in the little toaster oven. Anybody else watching right
those
now
were
remember
called Stofers.
Elio's? No, it was Elio's brand pizza. Maybe it was an East Coast thing. Anyone else remember?
Must have been
Elio's
because I
pizza?
never. And I was in the Midwest, and I don't remember it.
Yeah,
Was it cardboard
We
with
had
like a few
Totino's where I was
slices?
at.
It was like cardboard with like a few slices of cheese on it. Like that's what
But it was the French bread one,
it was like shaped like
like an oval.
I don't know what I'm telling. It was shaped like this. It was like a piece of cardboard. But anyway, that was what we had in the 1980s, and we loved it. My sister and I loved it. But anyway, that freezer looked like the Wuhan lab freezer. Like it had like big chunks of ice that you had to like every like season you had to get in there with like an ice pick and like because it was full. Like, but we weren't stirring up monkeypox. We just had Elio's pizza.
Do
in
you
our
remember
freezer.
the miracle thaw? That was for like the generation of people who had a bunch of thawed out things where you put like meat or whatever on this miracle thaw, which looks like a griddle.
It was just a stone.
It's not a stone. It's like, it looks like a nonstick griddle,
Uh-huh.
but it magically defrosts your meat in like record time or whatever it is you put on there.
Maybe and they could
So
do the same thing
you
at the
needed
Wuhan.
a miracle thaw.
At the Wuhan lab, they could use the miracle thaw to thaw out the monkeypox. But I also want to play this. So this is a Chinese official who's pissed off about this. So they're saying, look, this has nothing. This lab leak theory is a total lie. Don't pay attention to it. This is all anti-China. Okay. Now, look, on this show, we're fairly nuanced. We've covered watch our video with Vanessa Beeley, our interview with Vanessa Beeley, who's been covering the Uyghur story. We'll go watch that video. I'm not going to comment on it here, but we try to really be fair when it comes to like all of the propaganda coming out of the West about China. But here you have an official from China saying, don't believe this Wuhan lab stuff. It's all anti-China propaganda. Listen.
实验室泄露完全是反华势力出于政治目的炮制的谎言，毫无科学可言。中方已经邀请世卫国际。
So, he's saying there, if you're listening to this in audio, what he's saying is we invited the WHO to come to the Wuhan lab, right? We invited them here and
But they did say that, but the World Health Organization said that they weren't giving access to everything they wanted to see. So who's telling the
Well,
truth?
and that was
We
an
don't know.
American. That was an American doctor blocking that.
联合研究报告也
that the
明确
laboratory
得
leak
出了
was highly
实验室泄
unlikely.
露
Again,
极不可能
we
的
laid out at
结
the
论。
beginning of this video how they were, they've been in cahoots, the WHO and China. So there's a cozy relationship there. And you can see it in Dr. Fauci's response as well and the funding that's been taking place there. So are we getting anything accurate? Maybe the only thing accurate we're getting are these private conversations now from the heads of these chiefs at the World Health Organization admitting to behind closed doors and letting this leak out. And by the way, this stuff doesn't just leak out. This is an intentional someone trying to cover their path now. Somebody from the WHO trying to like do the right thing and get this information out. Say, no, look, we've been having it. We've seen enough evidence. We know where this is coming. We're going to tell you this information.
Yes, or you could go around it from the other side, right? And maybe someone's trying to throw a wrench and do the wrong thing. Like, we just don't know, right? It's so much of it doesn't make sense that we just clearly do not know.
Be the COVID reach around. Is what you're saying.
Yes.
COVID reach around.
Yeah.
Got to watch out for that COVID reach around.
Thank you so much for subscribing to our channel. You know, we've been banned, we've been blocked, we've been censored. That's why we started our own website, to stay connected with you for free.
That's right. So head on over to redacted.inc and make sure you're connected with us. You can sign up again at redacted.inc, not .com.